season.
Season six,
Season
we
six.
think.
Yes, we think it's season six, and you guys know already. We're going for 6 seasons in a movie. That's it. We're getting through the season, and Nick, I actually think that the movie is coming up like mid-October. I know we can't talk about any details yet, but there's a big event coming up mid-October. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that? Maybe people where they can register, what's going on mid-October?
Yeah, Adobe Max is coming up, guys, and it is kind of like long awaited again. It's every year around October, November. They're online again this season, and there's so much to check out and so much to like kind of sign up for and register for, right?
Yes, there's all kinds of different sessions, and there's all kinds of different like community opportunities too, which is going to be really cool. We'll be doing some special stuff in our Discord, just for you, and
Why not?
we'll have details on that eventually. But there's some great stuff coming. I was in some meetings this morning, and I was like, ooh. So if that's my reaction, yours is going to be it's going to be awesome. All right,
Exciting
Nick,
stuff.
we're here for a new season. Welcome back to Office Hours. Can you tell everyone what this show is, what we're doing, and what this season is all about?
Yeah, it keeps expanding. And yet we still have plenty of ideas to explore down the road. But this season, we have taken kind of our office hours formula, which is a weekly thing that we can come and talk about creativity and have some fun. We've been doing all different kinds of things, and this semester right now is all about back to school. So we want to take things that you would have gone through with your typical curriculum at school, and we're going to show you there's a graphic design, there's a creativity side of all of these different courses.
Yes, so we're going to be trying to incorporate your regular classes into your creative classes. We're going to inject creativity into everything across the board, which is one of my favorite things to do. And we have a special new tool for you that we've been talking about forever that we finally did, and that is this. bit.ly/ohcal. We made a calendar for you. You can go
Why not?
subscribe to that calendar, and it will remind you, put it on your calendar every Friday that office hours is at 2:30, and that way you won't miss. So you can go to that link right there, and you can get hooked into our calendar to remind you that office hours is happening. And Nick,
Why not?
right? Like
I might have to even sign up for that just for the notifications.
right? We talked about this in an earlier episode that it's so important to use your calendar wisely. And I mean, what other wise way is there to use your calendar than to put office hours on it?
I agree. Yes.
All right.
Whew.
Let's go ahead
Where should we start?
let's start with the full season overview. We usually keep you guys
Let's
in the
do it.
dark and we kind of like tease stuff out. This season, we're giving you everything so that if you have friends that are in these majors, if you know people that are taking these classes, invite them that week. So Nick, let's walk through what's this week
Yeah.
that we're in today.
First period is all about journalism, and what we're going to do today is we're going to show you some stuff about type hierarchy, page layout, everything that involves kind of like editorial and journalism, and show you some of the tips that we use and some really cool stuff going back in like history to show you a little bit about how those two worlds come together.
Yep, y'all know if you're on a stream with me and we're talking about literally anything, I'm going to teach you some history. So you're getting some
Exactly.
a little bit of a deep dive today, which is going to be fun. We also that link is expired. The link is expired.
Oh my goodness gracious.
That makes me sad. Okay, we'll try some other things.
We'll figure it out.
Next week, we'll be talking about history, and we'll be taking a storytelling approach to that. So if you are a history major, if you're going into history, we're going to help you craft a unique story, figure out the staples of storytelling, beginning, middle, end, rising action, falling action, a little bit of structure to maintaining and retelling these stories that we've seen in history. Nick, week
Yes.
3, what's third period for us?
All about mathematics,
Math.
Nick's favorite subject. Not. But we're going to find a way to even make the people that don't like math enjoy it, because there's a ton of visualizing data through graphs that we're going to kind of explore. So it's all in there. I mean, I laugh too, because 90% of what you're doing on Illustrator or anything else is revolving around math, right? It's all grids,
all
it's
math,
all that stuff.
yes.
So what better way to kind of learn?
Yes, right? And then week 4, we were moving into kinesiology, which is going to be really fun. And the take on kinesiology is just like our body needs a whole bunch of different pieces to work together as a whole, that happens with design systems. And so as we're looking at different pieces of the body, we also can relate that to design systems, each individual piece working together. We'll probably have a special guest this week, and we will maybe do some exercises. Maybe we'll do some stretching.
Can't wait.
Right? We'll get our bodies in gear, but then also get
Hey,
in.
that's a great idea. We got to
Right?
do that for sure.
We're just sitting in our
I know.
desks all the time.
Too much.
Okay. Next period, what are we doing, Nick?
It is all about theater. And again, building a complete world, helping you through storytelling. It's all those little, call them props, you name it, right? Set design.
Yep.
How are you setting the tone? I can't wait to get in maybe even like presentations for this and like so many different ways we can explore this topic and how you can use it in design.
Yep, I was gonna say it could be interesting to take almost like a little bit of an improv approach on this one, to be like, okay, cool, let's do a pitch with like no idea how it's gonna go, and figure out how do you maneuver a pitch when a client throws you a curveball.
Ooh, we should even bring in the whole. Have you ever heard of pechacucha?
No, it sounds delicious though.
It's an amazing dish. No, it's actually a Japanese form of presentation where you do 20 slides, and each slide you have 20 seconds. So it's like a
so
6.5 minute presentation. And I have my students doing it right now, but we should intro that because it's all about storytelling in a really concise, pre-timed zone.
That's
so
really fun.
If you want to get better at that, it's something fun we should try.
All right, we're going to make desserts and have pechacucha, which transitions to our last period, which is the culinary arts.
What a segue.
And dude, I set it up so good. I felt it in my heart, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. So we are going to be finding the recipe for success. We're going to give you all those little details. I'm actually talking to a food stylist for this episode. So we'll try to have a little guest on this one, get a little behind the scenes on someone that like works with food, does food photography, stylist, which could be fun. And then we're also just going to talk about finding your success and kind of working on that. So that's the preview for what's coming up. But who cares about what's coming up, because we're here today. We're here today doing the thing. And before we go into the future too far, I want to look a little bit into the past. And Nick, we have something in our Discord. And what is our Discord for those that don't know, that maybe haven't been here?
Oh, this is fantastic. This is the place to be, guys. So everything here is homework. There's great chat. There's voice chat. Everybody's on there, even talking while the show is going on. It's kind of the home away from home.
It is. It really is. And you can see down in the corner. Can I move this? No. Okay. Down in the corner behind Nick, or right above Nick, can you point up for me?
Yeah. There we go.
Cool, right there. So right there is where you can join down here at office hours. And yes, the link is down. We're just using a regular link this time, discord.gg/ACC. Right there, you can get connected. No short links, just that one. So use that link, get connected, and join our Discord. And we have something from Katarina from last week. Nick, what was the homework that we had last week?
Last week, it was all about writing a letter to yourself. It was the end of our summer camp, and we wanted to hear from you guys as far as, was there some retrospect? You name it, right?
Yep. And I think I did mine. Nick had some reflections as well. And then we had Katarina drop theirs in there. And there is a recording that you can listen to there. I'm going to read it through and give a little bit of recap from Katarina's experience. Letter to yourself. Boiling summer, right? Yes. Not just the temperature was rising, but also the pressure. Like living in a place where you don't feel like you belong, or not having a job or a clear idea how to survive a quarter-life crisis. This summer was full of epiphanies. Some of them were nicer. Some of them weren't so fortunate. Were so unfortunate. You found out that sometimes you need to let go of work that you get stuck with, to let go of toxic relationships. Yes, sometimes even let go of yourself. Yes. You learned that you can be your worst critic and that you can stand in the way of your growth. Yes, don't sabotage yourself. You pushed yourself like never before, set plans, got organized, made work done, did things that are intimidating to you at first, even if you don't think that was your best self. And It all happened when you got yourself immersed in the Adobe community. Yay! Making contact with
Nice.
those people gave you a whole new level of understanding of your own values and failures, and understanding that it isn't just you that struggles with these issues in creative works or issues that can be in life in general. Take a look at you. You're doing great, even under impossible conditions happening time to time, coping by creating and sharing, learning new things every day. I wouldn't change this summer for anything. That's awesome. That
So
makes me so
great.
happy.
And I think
Oh,
everyone can kind of reflect on that too. And we all it hit on some really good things that I think we all shared and talked about over the last semester for sure.
yep, absolutely. And so Nick and I always over program these episodes because we want to just tell you guys all the things. So today we're going to
Exactly.
try to get into some hands-on demo at the end. We do have a lot to talk about, so we're going to try to get through that, give you
Good.
some good information. And sorry, I just saw Elizabeth's comment that said, I probably won't be in voice chat today because I'm also in a
What?
club at this time. I want that journey. Like, I want to be
Exactly.
a Friday at 2:30, just like, oh, I'm in the club at 2:30.
I'm in
It
the
might be a
club.
different time for you, but like, sorry, I'm in the club.
You think so?
I'm ready.
I
Nothing
know.
says self-employed like being at Target at 11 o'clock in the morning. All right.
Beautiful.
So, Nick, let's hop in and talk about what we are going to jump into today, and that is journalism. A lot of people have taken
Yes.
journalism in school, are taking journalism. I did journalism for pretty much all of my time in college, public relations, newspaper, yearbook, all that fun stuff. And so
Yeah.
we're going to track through, and what are we going to try to cover today?
So it's everything. We're going to get into editorial design. We're going to look at some hot trends and things to help you kind of like take risks and chances with your layout design and everything. And then you're going to go into some incredible stuff looking back into the history of where this all came from, right?
Yes, I love that. Yes, hot trends, hot
Perfect.
trends. Just know once we
Yes.
get there, that's all I'm gonna do. You take over, and I'll just be there going, hot trends, hot trends, hot trends.
All right,
All
let's
right,
do it.
so let's hop in and let's get started with our talk about journalism. So before we get started, I want to set a little bit of context for especially type hierarchy, right? Journalism, to me,
Yeah.
especially publication, is all about type. It's all about communicating stories through symbols, which are letters. We put the letters together into words, the words turn into sentences, sentences to paragraphs, paragraphs into stories, and then stories into a full journalistic piece, right? And so I want to start at the beginning and talk a little bit about how we got here. So we started with cuneiform, which is, well, technically, okay, let me give a disclaimer. This is my summation of how we've gotten here. It's technically
Nice.
different, but like I kind of just tracked in the big pieces. So we started
The
with
world
petroglyphs.
according to Andrew.
That's true, history, yeah. All of history according to me. We started with petroglyphs, which is just cave paintings. Then we moved to cuneiform, which is basically pressing into clay. Then we get to papyrus, which is writing on basically reeds that were gathered from different areas by water. Then we move into hieroglyphics, which is more of like a chisel. We get to copperplate engraving, which is the same chisel, except it's kind of chiseled into a piece of copper and then inked and then pressed. Then we get into wood type, then we get into hot metal, and then we eventually get to digital. And I want to give some examples because I have them here on my desk. Again, I'm a nerd and I just collect these things. I accidentally spelled the word skate, but like in the cool way. So let me do that. There we go. Skates.
Oh, nice. There you go.
So here is what
love old
wood
wood
type
type.
look like, right? So
Yes.
each of these has a letter engraved on it. And this is how you would tell stories back on the day. There we go. This is how you would tell stories, how you lay out a story. Don't focus on my face. There we go. Is each one of these are individual pieces of type, and they would be laid out one by one to build out your story, right? So type hierarchy.
Yeah.
Took forever because it literally was expensive that you had to have each individual letter. Any kind of illustration you needed also had to have an etched out piece. And Nick, have you ever heard of the terms uppercase and lowercase?
Maybe, yeah. Tell me
Right?
about him.
So that comes from type sorts like this.
Yes.
Because you used to have the capitals up top, which was the uppercase, and then you'd have the semi-uncials, which is our lowercase, right? The small letters would
Yeah.
be in the lowercase, and so they became called uppercase and lowercase, right? Magic.
Yeah.
So we
Have you ever set type?
I have set type.
It's crazy.
It's
like
crazy.
You think it's going to be the easiest puzzle piece thing, like whatever. Oh no, with the little spacers and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, it's It's incredible.
So you know how now we talk about words per minute, how many words per minute you can type? It used to be
Yes.
minutes per word because of how you
Yes.
used to set it up. It would be minutes per word, and you were measured by how many minutes it would take you to put like words together,
Yeah.
because it literally was in and out, in and out, in and out every case. So eventually we moved from the wood and carving by hand into the metal. And this is known as hot metal type. Let's see how close we can get here. Oh my goodness.
Ooh,
So
good
hot metal.
job.
So you can see these are individual sorts of type. They're called type sorts. And
Think
you
of
can
your
see,
typewriter. Same
yeah,
thing.
exactly. Think of a typewriter. Same thing. They would cast these, and this was known as hot metal because it is hot metal, literally injected into a mold. And again, that would be how you'd lay out a story. If you're a journalist, if you were a printer, you would be doing that literally piece by piece by piece by piece, which would take forever. So that's a little bit of context. And then we hop into, oh, look, my spacer's up there. Oh, can you guys see that? You can. Oh, wait, no, I hit the wrong button. There we go. Yeah, that little
There it
orange
is.
spacer in the corner is so that I can make sure everything's aligned. So you guys get sneak behind. So a
That's
little
tech talk.
right. A little context is when we look at those pieces, right? It used to be all about typography. On the left there, you see a front page that's only type because it was really expensive to get something etched into wood or etched into metal that was an illustration.
Yeah.
But eventually we got into photography, right? And I know, Nick, you're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of editorial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we eventually got into photography. And once they realized that photography was a big seller and it became something that could be produced, it pretty much took over the entirety of front pages, right? That's all you see on front
Yeah.
pages now is giant photos. And I want to, someone says, hot metal makes me think of the 80s. Yes, it does sound right. Oh, gosh.
It was a whole genre we
Right?
just passed over.
Yes. And
Hot
so
metal.
once photos started to go, we would see a lot of photos, and really tabloids started to popularize photos. It would be, the scandal of the day. It would be the Evelyn Nesbit. It would be, right here, the crash of the Hindenburg. And I want to give a little note to history. Just again, I love history, is that photos like the Hindenburg really started something that was not a good practice, but is kind of common today. And that was this, that drama and disaster equals money. And so newspapers realized if we can get that huge photo, and if it's of some kind of like criminal execution, if it is a celebrity drama, if there's an affair happening, if there's a natural disaster, those are the things that sold. And so get this, they used to send photographers to areas that were more accident or disaster prone so that they could get that photo right away and then get it to the newspaper to print in the next day or the next couple days.
Incredible.
Right? And so instead of having them
Yeah.
travel to get a photo and then come back, they were like, cool, you're going to go live on the San Andreas Fault because
Just wait.
just wait for a natural disaster. Go live next to a volcano, and then when it erupts, send us pictures. And that used to be a pretty common practice, which is
I
just
bet.
crazy. So, and
Unreal.
yes,
And it still lives today.
yes, someone mentioned a linotype machine. A linotype machine actually did words altogether, and that was really a great machine. I'll talk more about that like for literally hours,
Sure.
but there's a documentary called Linotype, and you should go watch it. Like, regardless of where you are, go watch the Linotype documentary. It is so good and gives you so much context for journalism.
And such appreciation for where we are now.
Yes, yes, absolutely, yeah. You get to
Yeah.
learn about Ottmar Mergenthaler, who it's said that he put us 100 years ahead in technology because of his inventions with the printed word. So
Amazing.
we're going to finish up with context. And Nick, let's talk about editorial design a little bit. Take on over and
Yeah.
let's talk about how we do this now in the modern day.
Yeah, and what was so neat about doing the research on this was trying to find the things that I thought were almost very chance oriented and like people taking risks with design. And I don't do a lot of editorial design, so I can appreciate it when I see someone doing something really kind of unique. And I love it when people are breaking the rules of like this one on the left. You've got centered, you've got flush right, you've got flush left, you've even got this like funky circle that's been cut into quadrants, and then the font's kind of rotating around it. And there's no rhyme or reason, right? But other things unify it, and that is like very simple color choice, reverse out, not reversed. And so there's this harmony that happens, yet it's quite crazy, right? That's what I love about these ones.
Yeah, and I think design is all about adopting and then revolting, right? That we see these trends that like everyone starts
Yes.
adopting something and then it revolts against it, and then it is adopting and then revolting. And it's not like the revolt is always the crazy. Sometimes things are crazy, right? Like 90s grunge. And then we flip
Yes.
over into this like new international typographic style that's super clean and modern that we see in like the early 2000s. And I
Yeah.
love that it is constantly that back and forth. And I think in editorial right now, we're definitely in like let's get rid of the clean stuff and just go crazy.
Oh, yeah, and you see the magazine, like you could see the evolution of how magazines have taken more risks. Where this back in the day, it was almost like it had to be clarity, it had to be perfect readability. Now it's like stand out, look different, try something different every time, right?
Yep. And
I love
Carol
it.
is saying, I set type on a Mergenthaler. That's like one of my dreams. I actually have a metal nameplate from the factory, a linotype, like
Wow,
actual. I bought on eBay, and it
that's
sits
great.
on my shelf back there. And it's
What a good idea.
right, a cool connection to history.
Hmm.
All right,
This next, oh, the other one on that slide was just showing too how you can play with scale, like doing the quotations quite big and in an impact color. So just messing around with scale, you can see there's stuff very, very small and tiny. There's great hierarchy on these for sure, but I just love the way it's messing around with different things,
Yep,
you
and what
know?
I love about this is it's playing with scale, but it's also playing with contrast because you couldn't put that in any other color and have it still be readable. But that yellow, there's such contrast that you can really play around
Yes.
that it's like, cool, this element doesn't really exist because the contrast is so high. You could do anything you want with that yellow and black. I
Even
love that
overlapping
idea.
stuff like that. You're right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Perfect.
All right, so
Some other
continuing
great
on,
stuff.
yes.
Yeah. So you've got like odd kind of like crops and placement. I love this one on the left because again, if you struggle with like layout design and you're too structured, look to these to see some inspiration on how you can kind of mess things up a little bit. Like even that O2, that was a
Yes.
quite a trend in using these fonts that have kind of the fade outs and that cut. But then the way it's overlapped and then these odd croppings and placement, I really love.
Yeah.
And it's such a neat kind of inspiration. I like to see these things just to feel like I can maybe be more daring with some of the work, you know?
Yeah, I like to call it like an invisible line weight to where it looks
Mm,
like it just goes thin, but it's actually just like gone. I
yes.
love that look. And
Yeah.
the weird cropping, especially on those photos, and I think that this is the term and I can't remember it perfectly, but I think it's called denied cropping,
Ooh,
to where
I
it's
like
like
that.
very focused in on something that shouldn't be the subject.
Yes.
And so I love that trend as well, that it's kind of this
What a
like a
great
little off
idea.
kilter kind of thing.
Yeah, and this one on the right is kind of giving you an idea of like table of contents don't have to be the justified left, justified right with, dots going across it. There are some really unique ways and to still do it with really good hierarchy. Great examples out there to
Yep,
check out.
and we actually talked about it today. If any of you joined us for the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge earlier today, with me, we did a magazine layout. Literally, it's a double editorial day. But we talked about David Carson, and David Carson is like the king of that, of putting the page number as the biggest thing on the page.
Nice.
Super experimental, super crazy. So go look up David Carson if you want a little bit of context there.
Nice. So these are some other ones too. I like this idea on the left. You can completely, it's like you've taken the page and just rotated it 45 degrees. You got these mega angles, and it actually continues and it plays with the entire layout from page to page. And I think again, if you're looking for new ways to mess around with editorial, you got some cool stuff happening there on the left. And then on the right, this idea of like unique white space. Like to me, this looks so random. If you look at one particular area, it doesn't look like it's actually working well. But then when you look at the whole layout, you're like, this is so continuous. This is like so thoughtful. And I love this idea. To me, that's the kind of stuff I strive for to be in a editorial designer.
Yep, and a little bit in both of these. I love duotone, that it's about one color
Hmm.
and it's about telling that story. And maybe it is right operating manual for Spaceship Earth. It is that kind of like, oh, what's the color that's going to give us space? Like, oh, let's do this cool
Totally.
blue, a little bit futuristic. And so it's about layout, but it's also about telling that story with the extra elements.
Yeah, and that's a great challenge too, guys. If you're thinking of something that you don't have in your portfolio, do a two-color job in just a whole campaign and
Yes.
do it in two colors. See what you can do. On these ones, we've got big negative space, like this one on the left, just so confidently, like my mind wants to fill it with something, right? Like I love when a designer takes this kind of a risk and there's just something really cool about that. And then it's just block, 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 heavy on the bottom, and it's still balanced. The
Yep.
one on the right, same thing, consistently showing you a flow. And like, if you look at all the elements going on, everything's so different, including the page. You wouldn't think the cover is the cover to the stuff on the inside, but yet when you see the whole thing, there is a beautiful consistency throughout the design, and that's all in that nuances of the layout design.
Yep. And I think that a lot of times, being journalists and a lot of journalism students, or even myself when I was writing for newspaper, it's all about like, how much can I fit in here? And sometimes the spread is more about like, what's the feeling that we can get here, right? How can we leverage all the space to its maximum? And I have a project manager, and anytime I send something, I love sending stuff to her to be like, hey, what do you think about this creatively? Because she's a little more creative now, but she used to be like not creative at all.
Yeah.
And so her response was always like, oh, I can't breathe. Like, oh, I mean, I need more space for it to breathe. And that just
Wow.
reminded me to give it, you know, she doesn't know what she's saying of like, oh, the type hierarchies are too close and it's over cluttered. She's just like, I feel like I can't breathe. And to me, that's like, oh, I need more negative space.
Yeah.
And so if you are a journalism person and you're wanting to pack in as much content into that story as you want, show it to someone and see if it feels right, because you might need to actually sacrifice some content for the layout so that the content actually becomes more accessible.
Yeah. It's just like anything else. It's like taking less confusion, less for the viewer to kind of like focus on. And it's like it's such a great way to kind of make the design work 10 times better.
Yep. And I have no segue for this, so I'm just going to say the word
Just go.
turduncan sausage is where we're going next. Nick, tell us about the turduncan sausage.
I know this is a great one, right? Looking for great and bad examples of how hierarchy is and how you can find different ways to kind of retune the message. 90% of the time with what you work with, you are getting copy from someone, right? And whatever job you are working on. What I feel is our first job is to turn it into a more communicative form. The one on the right here is showing just simple changes to the copy on the left, where now I know where to go, what's my first thing that I have to focus on, what's the second most important thing, and then what's supporting the entire story. And
Yep.
there it is, your headline, subhead, and body copy. Notice too, like I just love the idea of like bold, upper and lowercase, then slightly smaller, but all caps as a sub. There's a beautiful little kind of like transition there. Then you get a nice serif font in the paragraph, which we all know kind of is an easier thing for our eyes to read when it comes to line after line after line.
Yep. And someone's saying that this looks like bacon ipsum, which I'm guessing is like Lauren Ipsum, which is just place filler, but with
be.
like delicious things. So
Sounds
it's
great to me.
right. It's got the headline turducken sausage, a little meatloaf ground round meatball, and then the copy is just like pig tongue, bit long chicken, beef ribs, Joel. So
That would be a great thing to have on Illustrator.
right? Please plug in. Someone make that plug in. What I love about this is we're telling a story here, right? That we're trying to say what is the most important down to the least important or the most content. And on the right, we have that tall bold, then a little bit of a thinner, then we have the serif for the body copy. Always use a serif for the body copy. I know that you can be like, oh, but I want to try new things. Great. Sure. If you have a ton of content, use a serif. It's really hard for people to read. It's the most accessible for people. The serif allows you to really just kind of go through and read easily large amounts of content. And something else from a journalistic point of view is journalism people, you might be more familiar instead of an H1 subhead, that kind of thing. You might be more familiar with the headline, right? Which is the big part of the story. And then that next, which is technically our like H2, that's known as a deck. So in journalism, when you have that extra little piece that's like under the headline, that's called a deck, and that's usually just a little call up from the story. So we have a big headline with the pow yelling across the room. Then underneath that, we have a little more of a conversation, and that's the deck. And then at the bottom, we have the full story, and that's where we go into that hierarchy of like kind of that low level. Here's a ton of information.
Yeah, lovely. Next up, too, you can see even with a business card. I mean, something as simple as this, the before and after, by just giving a little bit of love to that type and messing around with things. I always just try to say, what do you want the viewer to see first? What do you want them to remember with something? And sometimes in today's day and age, man, like the name sometimes might be just the one thing. Like, I want to make sure I'm driving home the name. And this is a perfect example of just the smallest little shift and how much better you can make a difference.
Yep, and this is the difference of, again, telling that story. Journalism people as reporters, you want to tell that story, and sometimes you can't be on camera and saying, like, today this happened. You have to
Yes.
say, hey, today this happened, then this happened, and here's the rest of what that story is. And you need to make sure that visually, what people would hear from you is happening visually. And so having that
Totally.
structure, right? And even in the business cards, the left having everything the same size, and then the right having the big name, bright colors, that you want them to remember that last name, so it's a little bit thicker. It's all
Yep.
about intentionally communicating to get that story across.
Great way to put it. Yeah.
And Elizabeth is saying Andrew and Nick are in their element. Yes, we are. Between the two of us, like, I think that journalism might be the crossover between us, right, Nick?
Well, that was my first major before going into college for sure. Yeah.
How have we never talked about this, Nick? I'm
I
like,
know.
yeah. I did
Oh,
journalism and public relations, and then did yearbook and newspaper from high school all the way through.
oh, wow. Good for you. Yeah. I did it in high school because it was just a fun way to kind of fill in. I think it was like getting to just have a little more control. Everything else was so like, here's a book, test, test, test. To actually have something creative in that field and learning paste up and learning all that cool stuff of laying out the pages and everything. I think that was the bridge to graphic design for
Pay
sure.
stuff, yes,
Hmm.
yes. And someone says in the chat over here, I was told serif for print, sans serif for web for body copy. I actually think that that could be true. Um, I'm
Interesting.
not mad about that for web. I don't know why, but it makes sense. So I will take
Yeah.
what you said, Richard, and just say that yes, I support that. I don't know if there's research, but it feels like it's right.
Exceptions to every rule,
Exceptions to
I
every
think.
rule. Again, there's no
Totally.
wrong way or right way. There is just ways,
It's
and
just our way.
just yeah, yes, with the wax, the paste up with the wax. Yes, and did anyone use Nick? Did you ever use a letter set?
Oh, you mean just the rub down fonts and type?
Yes, yes.
Oh my God. Someone should bring those back. Those were wonderful. I,
Oh
I
yeah.
love those. But now you're like, type is free. I don't have to buy it anymore.
Right?
Oh,
So,
it's the
for those of
best.
you that don't know, letter sets was basically a sheet that would have sticky letters on it, and you would have to press the letter down and then kind of like rub it on the back, and it would transfer that letter. And so, if you're doing a big headline, you would have to do every single letter individually. And instead of like typing out something in Helvetica, you literally had to like buy a sheet of letters and then press each letter on individually.
Love it.
Right? It's wild.
What's next? Oh,
Hierarchy, yes,
yeah,
visual
this goes
hierarchy.
into, I think it translates perfectly into, it's not just about type, it's not just about the fonts and everything you're laying out here, but even visual hierarchy. And thanks to UI UX being, I think, so, it's put that spotlight on ease of viewing, ease of reading, ease of using, right? Even if you're doing something static. I think what's funny is we can look at this and see that one on the left. We've seen plenty of examples that are just this busy and too many colors. And where do you go first on this one, right?
Yep.
Then you go to the right. And even if it, like you said, spacing it out means I have to edit or expand my area or my space overall to get the message across. There you go. So
Yep.
clean. Oh my gosh, like it's so much more inviting to look at something like that. And I love just seeing these examples.
Yep, and I always ask myself through any project, and especially in a journalistic sense of telling the story, is what is the thing? What is the thing, right? We live in this world where people are on TikTok scrolling. You have 25 seconds. You have maybe 5 seconds to catch someone's attention. So on the
Yeah.
left, you have all these different stories, right? That it's great content. It's awesome stories, investigative journalism. But I'm like, what's the thing? I don't know. I don't have time. But on the right, you see that the visual
Yes.
hierarchy has been boiled down to say, hey, here's the thing. If you want more things, you have more things, but here's the thing. And I say, thank you. I would like more things. You need to capture
Exactly.
that attention right away, right?
Yeah.
I am waiting for the like pure insanity of like 90s web design to make a comeback, of just throw everything that
Yes.
you can. I love that aesthetic and I want it to come back.
I love that it's kind of made its way into like advertising a few times here, but never the big
Yes.
wave that I think you're anticipating. I know what you're
Yes.
saying.
I
Yeah.
want it to, and I mean, it'll swing back eventually. That's how design works, but I want it
Oh,
now.
always does.
Just like
Pendulum
disco.
swing.
Which again, this is such a side note. We were having an on track episode, but speaking of things coming back, I've wanted disco to make a comeback for so long, and y'all, ABBA is releasing a new album, and I'm so excited. Okay, that's the end of that tangent. Is the new ABBA album? All right, Nick, please get us back on track and stop me from talking.
Yeah, there you go. Here's some other examples, guys, and I think you've seen a lot of this too. But again, going back to like there are different ways to say it. You've got display, you've got heading, and then you do have, like Andrew said earlier, the traditional H1, H2 body list styles. If you're doing anything bulleted or numbered, call outs, And what's great too is to build a little kind of like standardized thing here before you even go into a new project. Like have this set aside on the artboard, do a quick little thing with Greek type and
Yep.
try it out. And then save those as styles, and now you're just literally plugging and playing as you design.
Yep, and if we have time today, I'll show you how to set up those character styles. And this is literally what I do on documents: is lay out all my hierarchy and then save them as character
Yeah.
styles, and then we can format super quickly. So we'll try to get there today. Maybe we will.
I think we're doing good.
We'll see what happens.
It's getting a little high pitch.
We're getting close. All right, so let's talk about picking fonts with variety, right? And this would be known as, right, like a font family.
Yes, just a great way to kind of ensure that you have enough of one font to have all of this flexibility when you're coming to doing hierarchy. So when you look at something here and it has everything from ultra light all the way to extra black, and maybe even it might include an italic version or something else, right? There is a font family that will give you all of that usage to work with hierarchy and mess around with things.
Yep. Keep talking for a second, Nick, because I want to show off something that just popped into my brain. Keep talking about font hierarchy.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about contrasting fonts.
Oh yeah, and I love this idea too of like fonts that you can use that have some opposites, but then allow some unity and vibe. I always love to get a nice slab serif with a really cool like serifed kind of italicized. Anything that feels that they're somewhat in the family and they don't conflict is a great thing to use for some union.
Yes. Okay, so I think I found the thing that I want. Oh, give me a good version.
Killer.
There we go. Okay, let me
see.
paste this over here. Hold on. Pause, please. We're going to pretend like this was so ready. And I'm like, so our
Of
last
course it
slide
was.
of today is this slide that I had created. So talking about font families, this was revolutionary at the time. And let me put it up here, view, and let's go to presentation mode and then just push over here. It's so bad. All right, hold on. We're just going to zoom in here so we can see. You guys are going to see behind the scenes. There we go. So this when Universe came out, it was like groundbreaking. No one had done something like this before. And so it started with a base, and then as you went vertically on the different versions, it got thinner. As you went down, it got thicker, and then to the left was more extended, to the right was a more condensed, and then you also had variations between each of those that was italic or oblique, as they called it.
Yes, what a great chart to show. And I love that you see the flow of it. It kind of has that. Look at the shape it actually fills.
Yep.
By doing that.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
great.
that is really cool. That even if the words weren't on here, you'd still be able to see kind of the voice that it has just by the width of those boxes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do some research on the design and invention of Universe, and it's Univers, no E.
Yes.
Maybe we'll talk about that in a future one, but that's one of my favorite stories that popped in my head about type and hierarchy. So Nick, we want to do some hands-on. We got about 18 minutes, which is great. Let's go ahead and hop in. I know you want to show some stuff off in Illustrator, so let's do that and then see eventually if we get to InDesign. We do have some more announcements to do, but let's go ahead and hop in there.
Let's see if I can do a 5-minute design. I think that should be fun.
Good luck.
So, here we go. So let's say these were the components of what you got for maybe an event flyer. And here I've just got some copy that was given to me. I've got some of the assets that that we know we want to use, and maybe even a great little illustration like this to mess around with. And so what I've done here was I found maybe 2 headline fonts and 2 samples of body copy that I might want to use. And all of these are really cool Adobe fonts. And what's neat about them is they do have all that flexibility. So they have, particularly the body copy ones, they have some really great examples to start messing around with. So the first thing I know is Art Show is my main thing. And if I want to try it in one of these fonts, I'm going to start looking and be like, ooh, all of a sudden right there, I could tell this is kind of jiving with, I think, what I've got here. So I'm just going to start messing around with it. And I'm going to have, let's catch that leading a little bit there. Perfect. One thing I love about having great stuff like this is I will just start pulling colors from them. So there is a nice component of everything else. So I know that's basically my typical thing here. Now, what would be next? Would it be the time and date? Would it be the description of it? I kind of like this idea of maybe being underneath it, right? This is the definition of what it is. So let's try it out in this first font here. I'll bring it a little bit smaller. Perfect. Okay. Starting to look good. I think there's a nice little thing here going on. We definitely know what we're trying to do. I can maybe get the kerning a little bit to kind of start working with me better. This one, maybe I can go a little bit. Yeah, look, we got a few different weights here. So there we go. I do have black in the actual illustration as well. So I like the way that's kind of blending as well. Maybe a nice way to kind of segue this is just a key line, something here that's going to help me out. So let's give that a shot. What do you think? I'll give it black just for now. So I've kind of separated the idea that there's everything you need to know about the event, like the description and everything else. But let's now give them the date and time. So maybe this same kind of idea here, but we can go a little bit smaller. And maybe what I like to do you do this too? Like I will go a bit heavier, even though it's smaller. And I feel like it has this nice kind of weight to it.
Yes, when I think type, to me, when the message is not interesting but important, I make it heavier but smaller.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it kind of competes a little bit, but I like this idea here. And then I can maybe even space out the leading. So I'm always trying to find different things to kind of mess with. And maybe too, let's try this in all caps. So I'm just going to go to change case, uppercase. Does that help a little bit? See, I think it feels good. Like it gives a little bit of separation between this one and this one, right?
Yeah.
Not bad.
I don't
Let's
hate
see if
it.
we can fill the space maybe a little bit more there. Get this here. I can always go back and align. But now I've got these things to kind of mess with. So I know these two are the things that we always have at the bottom right. And I'll maybe keep it here. So where can we find a good space for, now that QR codes are back, let's face it.
I'm so ready. I'm so glad. I love QR codes.
You know, you can mess around with it and have some fun and maybe like even match it to these just for some uniformity.
Yep.
And then find a way here. I'll take a sample of this.
Also,
maybe this is like,
I'm not going to show you all today, but there is a way in
Yeah.
InDesign to generate QR codes from links directly in InDesign.
Oh,
so
great idea.
If you haven't done that, do some research. It's definitely easy to do. InDesign has some magic hidden away.
Nice. So just for fun, I'm going to get some things here, and I want to make sure that maybe I'm kind of I like to use the guides to make sure that I am like just setting things up in the same way. So this can maybe get a little bit bigger, kind of go here. And again, now I'm just kind of like figuring out what's kind of working. I've got a blank space here, but maybe this can even go a little bit bigger now.
Ooh.
So I'm just trying to find those ways. Maybe this not being black, we could try the orange. So again, you're just finding out simple ways to kind of let the eye tell them exactly where they want to go first, second, third. And it's just something that works really nicely with the way. And I even like having the negative space there on the right. You could even make this into quadrants and play with another line here. So sometimes if you're struggling for your components to be in spaces that they need to, simple key lines can help you. So like, here's info of the show, here's the more details, and here's your call to action. So I've separated them in a way really quickly just to see if something works.
Yep.
Yeah. So
did that.
Kind of a quick little spin.
And if you want more information about working editorial, especially in page layout in Illustrator, guess what? Literally happened today. You can go to behance.net/challenge/illustrator and go to the magazine layout. It'll be the last one on the page. It'll be up there for the next 2 weeks. So if you want a little bit more about doing it in Illustrator, you can go there. I actually learned some stuff prepping for that I'm like, wow, Illustrator actually does layout pretty okay.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Right?
There's ways around it.
Yeah, I always work in InDesign, but Illustrator is like, there's some powerful stuff here that I kind of want to see over in InDesign.
Perfect.
All right.
We got time for a little lesson too?
Para me? Yes. Let's hop over to my screen. And on here, we are now in InDesign. And InDesign is super powerful for layout. It's what most people use for newspaper, for magazine. Quark is out. Sorry, Quark, but InDesign is in. And what I want to do is I want to show you how to set up some character styles. And just like we had done right in that example that Nick had, we have a heading, we have the deck heading, then we have a call out, and then a body copy. Call out is really something, it's just like a one-off kind of thing. So I've gone through and balanced all of these, picked out a nice type hierarchy. And what we can do is, hold on, let me pretend like I haven't set this up while Nick was talking. Let me delete these and pretend like this doesn't exist. Okay, yep. Okay, cool. Wow. All right, so here we are in a completely blank character styles. And what you can do is you can go ahead and go to window, and then styles, and then character styles if it's not turned on. But you have this little panel here. And what we can do is we just double click into this box and we select what we want to define as a style, right? So we want our heading 1 to be formatted like this type here. We're going to click on the plus, and it's going to give us this right here. So we can double click on this and then rename it to heading 1. There's all kinds of other settings that you can do in there, but right now we'll just kind of focus on that.
Very cool.
So here we're going to name this one deck heading. Then we go down here. This is going to be our call out. And again, we're trying to keep fonts that are similar but different. A couple of these are the same in the family, and then some of them contrast completely. So I'll call this one the call out. And then we have our body copy down here, and we're going to name that one body copy. So check this out. Now what we can do is we can grab this, and I'm literally just going to placeholder text. So I'm going to use the type tool over here and click and drag over this entire work area, and then go to type and fill with placeholder type. Where are you? Edit, fill with, man, if I was on Mac, I could click on the little help and put it there. Layout, it's in type.
Let's see.
I just don't see it.
It's gotta be there.
It's definitely here. Hold on. It's definitely here. Text variables, insert, fill with placeholder text. There it is. Found it. Okay, cool. So from here we can grab our text box, and up here we can actually put how many columns we want. So maybe we want this to be in 3 columns, like a newspaper, right? And then we can come in here, and then we can kind of use this placeholder copy to maybe play around and create our styles. So I can put this as our headline, and I can just click on heading 1, and it's going to make it that format for heading 1, right? Looking pretty good there. And what's interesting is you can actually bind the keys on your number pad to different styles. So I don't have time to do that right now, but you can make it so that if I hit 1 on my number pad, it will format to the heading style. And it makes it so easy to lay out styles. You just go like boom, 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 boom. So then let's say maybe this is going to be the deck. We're just going to select, again, that content and then click on deck heading, and it's going to change it right there. Now, it looks like the tracking is way too much on here. And what's great is I can click on this little hamburger menu and then go to style options. And then I can come in here and change a lot of the options. So right now the leading is at 35, and that's crazy town. And so we're going to turn on the preview and then take this down, and you can see that it's actually previewing everywhere that has been used. So putting it like 20 looks pretty good to me. We're going to do a bunch of body copy here, and then all of a sudden we're going to cut into a little call out. So again, we're just imagining that this is an actual story. We're going to use this as our call out. And I just click on call out, and you see there that it is going to format that for me. Now, I'm going to do a couple more call outs here, just because I want to show you something that's pretty cool. Let's say we have another call out here, and then maybe we have another deck that is happening over here.
Nice.
So what's interesting, right, is these callouts are insane. These callouts are like totally crazy. And maybe what I want to do is the deck feels like it's a little bit too big, and then the callouts are also a little bit too crazy. I can click on callout. Oh, I had it selected. All right, there we go. We can click on callout and click on the hamburger menu and then go to style options. And watch this. This is why I love, I have body copy. I don't want that. There we go. Character, I have callout. And then we go into our style options. It's basically set not as formatted type, but set as a parameter. So it is set as the parameter of callout.
To be flexible.
Right? Yeah. And so here, if I come in here, because it's set as callout, anytime I change the callout setting, it's going to change everywhere that that callout is, right? And you can see it moving in both of those spaces. And so if I need to, it's going to format both of those at the same time for me. So the callout is still looking good, but I can format it and not have to go back and do each individual piece, right? Which is crazy.
It's like switching the gears on an overall control, and it's making that uniform change.
Yes.
And you can see when it's working and when it's not.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And here's something that I'll show that we're not going to keep, but let's say that there was an issue and one of the headings is not supposed to be like that. If we go to delete, so we have our deck heading, maybe we want that to actually be call out. We can come here and we can delete that style and watch what it does. It asks us, hey, what do you want to do when you delete this? And so I can actually replace it with the call out and I hit OK. And it's going to change everything that was that deck heading into the callout. And so that's why you want to work with character styles, because as you change things and as you move things, you won't have to do anything on its own. It's going to format everything for you.
Yeah, these universal or like global edits are really taking over all the apps in so many different ways. It's literally just benefit to your process and to your flow 100%.
Yes. Do you use Creative Cloud libraries at all?
Yeah, we just did a great recording that will be at Max with Paul Tranny and went over all that cool stuff. It was so much fun, like little things about CC that we don't even know, particularly now that the app is the hub that you go to.
Yes.
And the organization, I mean, like I can't wait to clean up everything. It's going to be a blast.
It's magic.
Yeah, good stuff.
So we have about 5 minutes left. I do want to do something really quick because I want to talk about it. Is we are doing something very special on this show, and we are doing every week a student of the week. Right? It feels right. It feels right for a fall semester. And this week it is Ken Aaron, I believe is how you pronounce it. If you would like to nominate a student or nominate yourself, you can do so in Discord. So go to discord.gg/AC. We're going to try to feature someone every week. And Nick, I'm just going to let you talk about this because we both have been freaking out about this profile. It is magical. Can you go ahead and talk about it?
First, I will say it throws everything we've kind of said out the window and reinvents what you could do on Behance. This is like a wonderful overlook resume about me and mini portfolio all rolled into one. She did such a phenomenal job. And I looked at these graphics and I was like, tell me more, right?
Yes.
And look as you scroll. It's wonderful. Now she has skill bars.
Here's the thing, Nick.
I'll almost say I'm okay. I'm okay.
I will say that I am not mad about it.
Hey, it goes with this flow. It goes with the look and feel.
Yes.
She's made these like, basically application windows, right? This great idea. She goes right into some projects. Love this idea. This idea of like taking one tone of this education vibe in the grid and then letting the work really be a contrast to that. Tells me everything, right? Look at this. I love the illustrations.
Yep.
Great little animation going on in there. Come on.
This is a great thing. We talked about the difference between having your personal brand versus having the project brand shine through. Like this is all personal brand, but still shows the work. So this is a great way to do that kind of idea of everything is branded to you, but then you're also showing off the work.
And you know what's great too? If you want, let's say you're not the best at web design, but you want to do something that you see in a great web portfolio, this is literally slides, guys. This is a one column drop of just exported slides that they made. And it has better a feel and vibe than some websites I see that people spend hours on. I love this. This is just great. What a fantastic little spin.
Yes, this project as well is just like gorgeous. And so this is the one that like sold me that I was like, it's so good. It's like a calendar
Hmm.
about games. Uh,
Yes.
and it is just like the illustration's good, the aesthetic's good, like this GIF is gorgeous. And then we get down and show all these things, and it's not just the typical like layout mock-up.
No.
Everything's cycling through in that GIF. It is just the greatest way to display this kind of stuff.
Man, if we can't stress first impressions enough, this is such a great example. You get a vibe of what this designer loves to do, what they can do well. There's some, I can only imagine the spirit and the enthusiasm of this designer too, right?
Yep.
You know, working with this person is going to be just over the top. So that's what we strive for, right? Give the right perception. Here's a great example of what to do.
Yes, and again, this is why it's important to post your work on Behance. I literally like put student in the top to find like a student profile, and she was one of the ones that came up. And then we
Wow.
found this awesome thing, and now we're featuring, and the work is amazing. So thank you, Sam. I bet Sam was literally trying to zoom in to like get the link to this portfolio. Yes, it is just
Exactly.
behance.net/Queen Doan, Doan.
Thanks for doing
Queen
that,
Doan,
Sam.
thank you. Thanks, Sam. Sorry about that. I should have gotten to you before the show. But you can go give a quick follow. Only 13 followers to that amazing work. And so I think that maybe she's newer to Behance because this was posted just a little while ago. But incredible, amazing work. And we want you
Yeah.
to submit yours. Again, you can submit them right over here, discord.gg/AC. Good work, Nick. Good
Thank
pointing,
you. I'm
everyone.
starting to know that it's the opposite direction to point.
Yes. All right, let's give a little bit of a preview because we want you to come back next week. Again, we're going to be doing this for the next 6 weeks. Back to school is a 6-week season. We do have another season coming up after this season, but let's focus on the here and now. Nick, what's coming up next week?
All about history, guys. We are going to show you some compelling stories, how to craft them. I think for sure I want to kind of use the spin of like some old inspiration and see how you can use it in today's storytelling, right? If we're going to stick with history, it'll be neat to kind of challenge ourselves with like old fonts, old textures, and things like that, and see if we can still do something fun.
Yes, and I'm going to.
What do you think we should do?
I mean, we're talking about history. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to talk about history.
Oh,
Y'all are going to
yes.
get so much history, and we're going to talk about rise and falls of movements. And I also want to talk a little bit about like storytelling. So we're going to mix a little English into this one, talk about a rising action, a falling action, and I'm probably going to talk about a story. And remind me if I don't, chat, a story called An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Remind me next week if I don't talk about that. It is the perfect way to tell a story. So remind me next week, and we'll see you for another episode as we continue back to school. Nick, any closing thoughts as we release them into recess?
Oh, I know. Thanks for coming, guys. Well, no homework really, just doing a little research, I'm assuming. But other than that, have a great weekend. Can't wait to see you guys next weekend.
Yeah, maybe
Next week.
try to lay out a type hierarchy and InDesign, set some character styles, play around with it. We'll give you the first week light homework, and then next week homework. So we'll see you
Get it
there.
out.
Join our Discord, and we'll see you next week on Office Hours. Bye.
Bye-bye.